Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you the story of my journey beyond time. In the golden haze of an early autumn morning, I found myself standing before a building that held more than just memories, it housed entire lifetimes. The old brick walls and flowering window boxes of Evergreen Haven, the nursing home where fate had led me, exuded both a sense of refuge and a quiet warning. I went there just to meet up with an old friend, but I learned there and understood that time, as it inexorably passes, is best spent enjoying every moment. I remember that at that time, the nursing home seemed to me like the final destination, not a stopover, where you could discover the true treasures of life. So this day I visited Carl. At 78, his face bore the map of a life richly traveled, a road of triumphs and heartaches, etched with both the stubborn resilience of youth and the gentle wear of age. Carl had not planned on coming to Evergreen Haven. The unlucky fall had turned his world upside down, and what he thought would be a brief recovery soon turned into 3 months of transformation. With eyes that still sparkled with defiance and a voice that carried stories of a life fully lived, he greeted me in the common room where morning light filtered through lace curtains. "Welcome," he said, a warm smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Sit with me a while. I've got some tales to tell that might just change the way you see things." And so began my journey into the hidden lives of Evergreen Haven, a place where each resident was a living anthology of lessons, regrets, and joys. As the hours passed, I found myself enveloped in the vibrant mosaic of stories that made up the nursing home's daily rhythm. Carl, ever the raconteur, introduced me to souls whose experiences resonated like echoes of forgotten songs. There was Harold, who'd been in the nursing home for 7 years. A quiet man whose isolation was as palpable as the mothball scent that lingered around his modest room. Harold's children, scattered across distant cities and engulfed in their busy lives, rarely paid him a visit. This chilly morning, I witnessed him clutching an old, faded wedding photograph, whispering with a voice heavy with sorrow, "I miss her more now." His wife had died years earlier. Later, Carl said he'd talked to his TV just to hear a voice. The staff couldn't fix that. Only people can. In that moment, I understood that loneliness was not merely the absence of company, it was the slow decay of the spirit. Harold's existence was a somber reminder that neglect, even when unintentional, can erode the light from one's soul. Then there was Frank. Once a commanding CEO who had conquered boardrooms and sealed deals with the ease of a maestro, Frank now found himself confined to the limitations of a wheelchair. Carl described him as a man who'd bought the world, but couldn't buy his way out of a wheelchair. He used to throw parties in Bali, Carl said. Now he can't tie his shoes. I remember watching him struggle to lift a cup of coffee, his hands trembling in a way that belied the vigor he once possessed. "I traded kale for caviar for decades," he once admitted with a rueful chuckle, and turns out, kale wins. His story was not about financial ruin or failed ambitions. It was a quiet lament for the loss of everyday abilities, a loss that no amount of money could remedy. Frank's reality served as a harsh reminder that our health, our ability to perform the simplest of acts, is the true currency of life. Every corridor and quiet corner of Evergreen Haven whispered a tale of sacrifice and the relentless passage of time. I met Margaret, whose body had been worn down by fate. She had lost parts of herself in ways that no one could ever truly mend. Yet, when she spoke, there was an undeniable radiance in her words. "I lost my legs, but I kept my joy," she declared this afternoon as we sat under a blooming magnolia tree in the garden. Margaret's resilience was contagious. In a world that measured success by material accumulation, her laughter was a rebellion, a celebration of life's intangible riches. Leela, a former school principal with a commanding presence, had once been the heart of countless spirited debates and classroom dynamics. Now, as she sat at the dining hall table, choosing between breakfast cereals with a furrowed brow, she lamented the loss of her independence. "I was a leader," she would say softly between tears, "and now I feel like a child." Her words were not just an expression of regret, but a call to cherish autonomy and self-respect. It was as if the very act of making a choice, no matter how trivial, was a fundamental right that defined her identity. I also encountered Rose, whose story radiated hope and defiance. At 82, she had lost both her legs, yet her spirit seemed unbreakable. When the sun shone just right, casting golden hues on her weathered face, she confided, "I asked myself how I keep smiling, and then I realized it's the sun. Its warmth on my chest is enough to make every day worth living." Rose taught Cal that joy isn't a destination. "Happiness isn't about having it all, it's about noticing the little you still do," he said. It reminded me of Henry David Thoreau. "Happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it eludes you. But if you focus on something else, it comes and sits on your shoulder." Something else about Rose? She started bird watching from her wheelchair. Rose's ability to find joy in nature's simple gifts reminded me that happiness is not measured by the things we have lost, but by our capacity to find beauty in what remains. Then there was Mrs. Peterson, a woman whose bitterness had grown like ivy around her heart. Once fiercely independent, she had built walls of resentment around herself after her daughter left, seeking what she deemed a better life. But when tragedy struck and her daughter passed away, the coldness in Mrs. Peterson's eyes deepened until she seemed to vanish into herself. "I miss her more now than when she was alive," she once confessed, her voice barely audible in the vast emptiness of her room. Her story was a somber lesson in the slow suicide of harboring grudges, a vivid reminder that bitterness only serves to imprison the soul. And then there was Mr. Thompson, a man with a wry sense of humor that belied the seriousness of his condition. As Carl told me, the night before his passing, he joked about his treasured 50-year-old whiskey, a symbol of his enduring love for life's little pleasures. By this morning, he was gone just as abruptly as a shooting star vanishing in the light of dawn. His departure left behind a silence that spoke volumes about the fragile nature of existence. Before we continue, I need to ask for your support. If you're committed to living a healthier, more fulfilling life, please hit that like button and subscribe. If you haven't done it yet, do so now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on these life-changing videos. It helps me spread this message far and wide. And I promise you, the insights we're about to share come from a real-life experiences and may completely change your perspective on aging. The hours I spent at Evergreen Haven were long, and with each single minute came new lessons in the art of living. In the midst of all these poignant encounters, Carl's voice emerged as a beacon of wisdom. It was not merely a collection of anecdotes. It was the thread that wove the disparate stories into a tapestry of understanding. That afternoon, as we sat by the window with the soft patter of rain in the background, he shared his most profound realization. Aging isn't about how many years you have left. It's how you spend the ones you've got. I listened intently as he recounted how the nursing home had transformed him, not by the sterile environment or the loss of possessions, but by the revelations that came from embracing each moment. "Don't wait for the perfect time to live," he insisted, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that belied his frailty. "There is none. The perfect time is now." Carl's words echoed the sentiments of a great thinker, Viktor Frankl, who believed that life only becomes unbearable when it is stripped of meaning. Inspired, Carl had taken to doing simple yet symbolic acts, calf raises in his sleep, dancing in the shower, and writing heartfelt letters to his grandkids. It was as if every small gesture was a defiant declaration against the inexorable march of time. It wasn't just Carl who embodied this spirit. Dr. Mary Tinetti, the gentle and insightful geriatrician who visited regularly, had explained that the loss of independence was not merely a physical setback, but a spiritual defeat. We cling to our routines, to our little treasures of control, she told a small gathering in the lounge, because they remind us of who we once were. Her words, delivered with a compassion that softened the harsh realities of age, stirred something deep within all of us. They made us question the common notion that moving into a nursing home was an inevitable surrender to fate. As the long hours passed, the interwoven lives of the residents formed a living allegory, one where each person's struggle and triumph was a call to cherish the present. Harold's quiet solitude, Frank's lost vigor, Margaret's radiant resilience, Leela's poignant regret, Rose's unwavering joy, Mrs. Peterson's lingering sorrow, and Mr. Thompson's fleeting mirth were not isolated tragedies or isolated moments of levity. They were chapters in a grand narrative of human existence, urging us to live fully, to love boldly, and above all, to value every heartbeat. When the time came for Carl to leave Evergreen Haven, it was not with the defeat of resignation, but with the buoyancy of renewal. The nursing home, for all its challenges and its lessons, had become a crucible in which the old man had rediscovered the meaning of life. Standing at the threshold of his modest new apartment, a far cry from the twin bed and plastic cup he'd grown accustomed to, he paused, as if to imprint one last memory on his soul. "Remember," he said to me, his voice steady despite the tremor of years, "never let the idea of a nursing home become a trap. Life isn't about confining yourself to a place because it's easier. It's about venturing out, embracing change, and finding joy in every unexpected turn." His words resonated with a profound truth. While Evergreen Haven had been a repository of life's lessons, it was not meant to be a final resting place. Instead, it was a reminder, a living, breathing testament that we don't have to rush for a nursing home when life's possibilities still abound. That day, as I watched Carl walk away with a lightness in his step that defied his age, I realized that the true value of his story was not in the hardships he endured, but in the wisdom he chose to share. His journey had taught me that life, even when it forces us into unfamiliar and sometimes intimidating spaces, is always an invitation to grow, to connect, and to rediscover the essence of being. I often think back to this day at Evergreen Haven, when every corner of the building was alive with stories, every face a repository of memories. The echoes of laughter, the bittersweet sighs, and even the silence that spoke volumes have remained with me. In the quiet moments of my own life, when I face decisions about care, comfort, and independence, I remember the faces of Harold, Frank, Margaret, Leela, Rose, Mrs. Peterson. Their lives, in all their flawed beauty, urge me to choose a life of engagement rather than resignation. Their stories were not just lessons for those in the twilight of life. They were a clarion call for anyone at any stage. They taught me that aging should never be seen as a sentence to isolation or a surrender to the inevitability of decline. Instead, it is a chapter rich with possibility, waiting for us to infuse it with meaning, laughter, and love. In the end, Evergreen Haven was more than just a building with creaking floors and faded wallpaper. It was a living chronicle of human resilience. It taught me that while the physical environment might change, the spirit remains unyielding if we nurture it with purpose. It made clear that every moment, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is a chance to redefine ourselves. As I now navigate my own journey, the lessons from Evergreen Haven echo in my daily choices. I make it a point to savor each sunrise, to engage with the people around me, and to never take for granted the freedom to decide my own path. I share Carl's words with anyone who seems caught in the web of regret or fear, reminding them, with conviction, that life's best moments are those we create, not those we wait for. There is an undeniable irony in spending time in a place meant for rest, only to discover a renewed zest for life. In that paradox lies the heart of all great stories, an invitation to awaken, to love, and to live with the understanding that our days are not measured by the years we've survived, but by the moments we've dared to live. So, whenever you find yourself at a crossroads, contemplating whether to seek the ease of a familiar, confined space or to take a leap into the vibrant uncertainty of life, remember the souls of Evergreen Haven. Recall the radiant smile of Margaret, the quiet lament of Harold, the lost grandeur of Frank, the poignant longing of Leela, and the infectious optimism of Rose. Let their lives be a reminder that no matter how daunting the future might seem, the present is a gift waiting to be unwrapped. Above all, let Carl's parting words remind you, don't rush for a nursing home. Do not let fear or convenience dictate the course of your life. Instead, embrace every twist and turn, every joy and sorrow, for they are the very essence of what it means to be alive. As I close this chapter of my own reflections, I am filled with a deep gratitude for having witnessed such profound beauty in unexpected places. Evergreen Haven, with its silent corridors and resounding life lessons, taught me that every ending is merely the beginning of a new story. And in that story, you are the author. Write it with passion, with courage, and above all, with the conviction that each day holds the promise of something extraordinary. In the end, life is a mosaic of moments, a blend of the bitter and the sweet, the joyous and the sorrowful. And it is in our power to choose how we arrange these moments to create a masterpiece out of the fragments of time. May you always choose to live fully, to love fiercely, and to cherish every heartbeat. In closing, I want to leave you with a message of hope and empowerment. Our journey together today has shown that aging isn't about inevitable decline. It's about harnessing the power of small, intentional actions to build a life of energy, resilience, and deep fulfillment. If you enjoyed this video, and I hope you did, I'd absolutely love it if you could like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to me. By joining us, you'll become part of a vibrant community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about life to the fullest even in old age. Together, we can learn, grow, and inspire each other every step of the way. So hit that like button if you found value in this content. Share it with friends or anyone who might enjoy what we're all about. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss out on new videos, tips, and updates. Let's build something incredible together. Thank you for being here. You make this community special. See you in the next video.